one perfect solution, but there are clues that will try to trick our team.
Hello there, everyone. My name is Crazy Caleb, and welcome to Count-to-69 420. A Discord channel called #Count-to-69 420 will be shown on the module. And and as we can see here, we have a number up in the top left. We've got numbers that we can interact with down at the bottom here, and we have 3 members of the KTANE community online over here. So what we need to do is we need to enter in 5 numbers off to the left here, but they won't necessarily be in counting order as you might suggest, which I'll explain what that means in just a second. So to solve the module, you must continue to count, but also play some mind games to make sure that you get the numbers you like. The base rules of the channel are as follows. Your numbers should be the previous number in the channel plus 1, and when you have typed a number, you must wait for someone else to do the next number before you can send a number again. So effectively what this means is that if Gwen, for example, were to type the number 10772, they can no longer type the number 10773. It can only be Maddie or Daniel. That's the only way. That's the only way that can work. So that's probably the most important rule that I'd have to note down for you guys. Just make sure that you are careful with that rule. That when someone types a number, they are no longer considered for the next number. So just be very careful with that. So now, to the right of the channel, you can see 3 users who are currently online. Their profile pictures won't be shown due to the KTANE factory running low on money nowadays. I mean, yeah, we're kind of broke. And to solve the module, we must perform a simple task. We need to predict the next number to be typed by the user selected, and we have to do this 5 times. So you'll see this little arrow off to the left here, and to the left of the name specifically, and that means we need to figure out who is at which number would they type the next number in this case. So at which number would they be typing that number? So we need to figure that out. And we need to solve the module by using these few rules here. And we also need to note down their conditions, which effectively are their preferences based on their username. So for Gwendolyn, he prefers numbers where a digit can be removed to make the other digits strictly ascending. Maddie prefers numbers that can be written as a concatenation of Lucas numbers. The Lucas sequence starts with 2, 1, and continues with the sum of the last 2 terms each time. None of the numbers in the sequence are considered to have leading zeros, which in this case we don't have to worry about because we're at 10,000 already. So, prefers numbers that can be written as a concatenation of Lucas numbers. So Lucas numbers in this case, if we take a look here, we have quite a few of them that we can do. So we're going to be looking out for this, and this is going to be very tricky to do, but it's not impossible to do. And I think that because of the fact that there is, I mean, yeah, if we can do the 1 by itself, the 1 and the 0 is actually not going to make anything possible, I don't think. This condition is probably the hardest to work with, and it almost never will apply because it's very specific. Prefers numbers that be written as a concatenation of Lucas numbers. In this case, Lucas numbers considering these. And you won't see that many of them actually come about, but I'll still keep that rule in mind just in case that happens. And prefers numbers whose digits share odd or even parity. So effectively what this means is all digits odd or all digits even. So just be very careful with that. And I don't think this will ever happen because of the fact that we're at a position of 0 and 7. So they both don't share a parity. So this will never apply either. So how exactly do we do this module if these conditions aren't applying most of the time for a lot of these people? That doesn't make any sense. Well, this is where these 3 big rules come into play here. So, in this case, what we need to do is we need to stop at the first step that gives at least 1 user. In this case, that returns something that a user can input. So, what we need to do is we need to take all users who prefer the next number and are allowed to type it. And the reason why we say that they are allowed to type it is specifically referring to this rule. When you have typed a number, you must wait for someone else to do the next number. So that's what they mean by allowed to type it. So we need to, we'll be looking at preferences first, people who actually do prefer the next number. And then we'll take a look at take all users who are allowed to type the number. So in this case, the person who didn't type the previous number, but do not prefer the number, nor the number after that. So in this case, we're looking for first number, number not prefer, and next number, not prefer, effectively. So that's what we're looking at for the next rule. And finally, we're just going to take all users who can type the number. So in this case, between the two people who can't type it. So that's effectively how that works. Now, in the case where if there are multiple users who would count this number, the person for which applies that the expression, in this case number modulo ping, is the lowest, will count the number. In case of a tie, take the first person on the online user list who was part of this tie. So, yeah, effectively what this means is that from top down, that's going to be how you consider in cases of tie. Those are extremely rare cases, and it's almost never going to happen. But in the very rare case of a tie, that's what you would do with it. So I'll never get this case to apply. So yeah, the number initially shown was on the module was counted by one of the people not currently online. So in this case, it's going to be only between these three people. And for the first part of this mod, it's actually going to be we have to consider all three of the people, and then it's only going to be two at a time. So the first part is getting over the hardest bit, which is just considering three people. So let's take a look. And the condition, what I mean by this, so what the modulo means is, so let's say, for example, let's just say two people applied here, Gwendolyn and Maddie, for example. If we take a look at their pings off to the right here, this little bit here, this is what we're going to modulo by. So if we modulo 597, we get 26 from Gwen. And if we do 248, we get 108. And in this case, if these both were to apply here, for example, this would effectively mean that Gwen would be typing this number, because of the fact that we're looking for number modulo ping to be the lowest. That's the way that would work. So to keep that in mind, that's very important to note. This will happen a lot. I'm just going to say that right now. This is a fairly common thing. So let's continue on then. So now for the first stage, we want 10772, and we're trying to find when Maddie will be typing this next number. So it's going to be very important that we keep doing this in a numerical order. So 10773. I'm just going to write down a bunch of these numbers for now. Whoops. So I'm going to prep a bunch of these guys here. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And that's it for now. For now, that's what we'll work with. So we're trying to figure out who is going to be typing the next number. So in this case, let's take a look and let's see if any of the preferences apply. So now, for Gwendolyn, prefers numbers where a digit can be removed to make other digits strictly ascending. Now, in this case, if we were to remove the 0, that might work, but this 2 messes with everything. So it's likely we're going to be removing the 0, and then we're going to make it ascending. So in this case, the first example I think where Gwendolyn would work is for this bit here. Now, I'm not sure if it needs to be unique numbers, but I'm going to assume it doesn't, because these 7s are going to mess with a lot of things. So potentially further on down the line, it'd be in like an 8, 9, for example. But as far as I'm aware, it doesn't consider duplicate numbers. I'm assuming that strictly ascending means that they cannot be the same number. So in this case, Gwen's condition will never apply, really. Now, prefers numbers that can be written in as a concatenation of the Lucas sequence. So in this case, the Lucas sequence starts with 2, 1, and continues with the sum of the last 2 terms each time. None of the numbers in the sequence are considered to have leading zeros. So I don't know where this 2, 1 bit is coming from, but continues with the sum of the last 2 terms each time. In this case here, 2, 1, 3, 4, 7, 11, 18, 29. Yeah. I don't know where this 0 is coming from. So I'm just going to rely on this little bit here. So in this case, can we actually write out this number with a concatenation of different Lucas numbers? No, because the 0 is going to screw with a lot of things, and I don't think that there's 107. So no, that is not going to work, and it almost will never work because of the fact that this number is a weird position. So this rule will never apply, and prefers numbers whose digits share an odd-even parity. And like I said, because of the 0-7 case here, that's never going to really apply. So now here's the case where we have to take a look here. we're now going to take all users whose digits are allowed to type the next number, in this case all 3 of them, but do not prefer it nor the number after that. And I think that that's going to be true for this entire thing. So now what we're going to do is for each of these 3 users, we're going to take the number that we have here, and we're going to do the modulo for everyone. So we actually determined that Gwendolyn was a pretty low one, but let's see what Dan gives us. So 727 is 594. Okay, so 594, and we did 248, which actually is forcing it to be lower. So we know that it's not Daniel Stigman. And for 597, we know that gives us a 26. And for 248, that gives us 108. So in this case, Gwendolyn will be typing this first number. But we're not looking for Gwen. We're looking for Maddie. So let's continue on. So now, for 10073, we know for a fact that we cannot consider Gwendolyn for this next rule. We cannot consider Gwen for this next rule at all, because Gwen typed the previous number. So now it's going to be between Maddie and Dan. And in this case, we know for a fact that both of these rules are not going to apply. So therefore, what it's going to be now is it's simply just going to be the modulo rule between these guys. And we know that 23 is equal to 109, and 727 is still a ridiculously high number. So therefore, we know that Maddie will be typing this number because the modulo is the lower of the two. So Maddie will be typing this number. And now what we want to do is we want to enter in 10773 into the module, pressing the little arrow key. And just like that, it's happy with that. So now, Maddie typed the previous number, and we're now looking for Gwen's rule to apply. So therefore, Gwen is going to be between with Daniel Stigman and Gwen, and they're both not going to have cases that apply because these ascendings, the strictly ascending rule is screwed up, and they're not going to share parity whatsoever whenever. So in this case, it's going to be between these two, and we know Gwen's modulo is extremely low, and we know Dan's modulo is extremely high. So therefore, we can safely rule that Gwen will be typing the next number. So 10774 is what we'll input into the next module. We're looking for Gwendolyn again. So now we know for a fact that Gwen will not be typing the next number, and it's going to be between these two once again. So 75 is a 597, and we're forced to have a modulo, and the 248 will have a modulo that is below 597, so Maddie will automatically be typing this. So in this case, this one's actually really easy because none of the preferences apply whatsoever. So Maddie will be typing the next number, and then it's pretty much going to be the same boat. There's not the even or odd parity, so we know that Gwen will be typing this one as well. So 10776. It's happy with that. And it's going to probably fall into the same category for both of these. Maddie and then Gwen. So this is a fairly easy one to do. So I'm hoping that it doesn't give me a case where Daniel Stigman will apply. And in this case, it's not. So yeah, Maddie, and in this case, Dan was not even relevant because his condition his time isn't gonna come until he gets below 727 modulo. So we know for a fact that next up, because none of these conditions applied for the life of me, we know that Maddie will be typing the next number. And just like that is a solved module. That was a fairly easy example, just because of the fact that we knew none of the preferences would ever apply at any given point, at least not for a while anyways. And I believe when it's referring to strictly ascending, I believe it's referring to, for example, 10789. If we were to remove the 0, all of these would be strictly ascending. I don't believe it's going to be including duplicate digits. So with the 77 in this case, that wouldn't be strictly ascending because there's a same number here, and that's not ascending. It's remaining static, effectively. So I believe that that's what that's referring to. And in this case, Lucas numbers are a very specific case, and having these numbers line up is a very specific case. So let's take a look at another example because I want to cover something where these conditions will actually apply. So I did get a bunch of really weird ones, but a lot of them can be really simple. I prefer everyone have new rules because I just want people. I want new people. So me, depresso, and go salt. This will be some good rules, I believe. So depresso prefers numbers that do not contain any digit exactly twice. Okay. Me prefers numbers that can be represented as an integer to the power of another integer greater than 1. So this rule, I believe, is referring to an integer to the power of another integer greater than 1. I believe it's just square numbers as an integer to the power of another integer greater than 1. I believe what this is referring to is referring to a number performing some kind of root of another number. I think that this is so rare that will almost never happen. I'll check it, but I don't think that this will happen. So an integer to the power of, so let's assume n is an integer to the power of k as another integer, effectively. So it has to be greater than 1, of course. I'm assuming that this is what it's referring to. And in that case, square numbers are super rare to get. Or in that case, cubic numbers, I guess, are really rare to get. I don't know if this will ever really apply. So, I'll keep it in the background, but that rule, especially as high up, is going to be kind of interesting. So, 2 to the power of 11, 12, 13, 14, 15... 16. Yeah, okay, so 2 is not even going to be considered. So the 3 to the 12th, 3 to, I guess, we'll start with 9. 10. Not even close. Okay. Then I guess 4 to the 8th. 4 to the 7. No. 5 to 5. 6. 7. Yeah, nothing comes close. 6 to the power of 4, 5, 6. Okay, that's we've already passed that. So 7 to the power of 5, 6. Yeah, nope. 8 to the power of 9. 8 to the power of, rather, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, no. Okay. I believe that this is beyond the case of even applying. Yeah, that's 1100 away. So I don't think this rule will ever apply. So that's an extremely rare case, and as I said, these rules can be really, really weird. So just keep that in mind. So, anyways, moving on. Prefers numbers which, when written in hexadecimal, return a least significant digit of 8 or higher. Now this, I'm a sucker. I'm just going to say that right now, and I'm not going to bother teaching you how base conversions work. You can use a base converter. I don't really care. But effectively, we're looking for something that will return a least significant digit of 8 or higher. Now this includes 8, 9, and then A, B, C, D, E. They all should be capitalized. A, B, C, D, E. So it will be, the least significant digit has to be one of these digits. That's the way that this rule works. This will apply a lot. This one will apply a lot. So we will get preferences for this one for sure. So let's continue on, and let's see who we're going to be starting with. So we got 4, 8, 9, 5, 9. Let's take a look at the conditions. We know that this is never applied, so we'll just ignore that for now. Prefers numbers that do not contain any digit exactly twice. In this case, the 9 appears twice, but this rule definitely will apply. We will be getting some preferences here, so this will be nice. And now prefers numbers which, when written in hexadecimal, return a least significant digit of 8 or higher. So let's take a look and let's plug this into hexadecimal. So now, from base 10, which is what we're currently in right now, to base 16. Oh, I forgot F as well. Sorry. A, B, C, D, E, F. And in this case, that is true. Because it is 8 or higher. The least significant digit is a foxtrot. It's effectively 15 in base 10. So therefore, we know for a fact that this rule is true, and it's the only one that is preferred here. So therefore, GoSalt will be typing this number, and GoSalt is who we need. So 4, 8, 9, 5, 9. And that's good. Now we're looking for a depresso. So now depresso, moving on to the next number, 4, 8, 4960, in this case, prefers numbers that do not contain any digit exactly twice. This is true, and Ghost is not relevant. So therefore, it's between meh and depresso. We know the dep definitely prefers this. So therefore, I'm quite confident that it's going to be 48960. Okay, back to Ghost. So 48961 for our next rule. It's going to be between dep and meh. So therefore, we now need to do the modulo case. So let's take a look. 61, we know for a fact that it's going to be now less than 8. So therefore, this condition, Ghost's preference, does not apply. So therefore, let's continue on. So now what we need to do is we need to now take a look at the second rule. Take all users who are allowed to type the next number, in this case between meh and Ghost Salt, and they do not prefer this number nor the next number, 48962. So let's get rid of Blue Casino, so we don't do that anymore. So therefore, we have 62. We know that for a fact that this is not going to apply for a while, and we know for a fact that there's not a shot in hell that actually happens. So therefore, both of these will not be applying for the next two numbers. So yes, we're going to consider this case, and now we're going to do the modulo stuff. Now this might be where meh actually comes into play here. Because of the modulo 48961. Let's do the modulo now. So modulo 243 is 118. So I'll write that down for meh, 118. And for Ghost Salt, 614 is 455. So in this case, meh will be typing this number. Now moving on. So here's probably the part where we'll be counting a little bit here. So we know that meh is actually very low. We know that meh is very low, and it will always be beating Ghost Salt in terms of modulo for a very long time. So therefore, we know that meh is going to be the preferred choice when it comes between Ghost Salt and meh. So now, in this next case, we know for a fact that depresso will be preferring this case because there's no digits exactly twice. There is none that occur twice. So dep will be preferring this. And also because of the fact that 6.2 is still lower than 8. So next up, let's move on. 48963 is going to be meh. 48964 is going to be 64 is not going to be dep. So it's not going to be dep because we have the 4s repeating twice here. So let's take a look at the next condition. So let's check for 6.4 just by the way. Still lower than 8, so therefore we're not quite there yet. So now, let's take a look at this next bit here. So we got 48965 is our next stage. So now what we need to do is we know that none of these are preferred right now. So therefore the first condition does not apply. Now we need to take all users who are allowed to type the next number but do not prefer it nor the number after it. In this case, depresso would prefer the number after it because of the fact that there are no digits contained exactly twice. So therefore, Ghost Salt is the only one in the running for this because meh was typing the one previously. So therefore, Ghost will type this number. And that's our next number for Ghost. So 48964. And that's good. Next up is going to be the meh rule. We know that for a fact that dep is going to be the next condition because of the fact that it's preferred by dep. So 48966, is that going to be above 8? It is not. So between dep and Ghost, we know for a fact that the modulo is easily handed to meh. So in this case, meh will be done here. And I hope you guys are understanding how this works effectively. So 48966. And then next up, depresso, 48967. There is no repeating numbers here. So therefore, dep will prefer it. And in this case, we're not at the point where it's a tie between Ghost Salt and depresso. So therefore, depresso will prefer this next number, 48967. And just like that is a solved module. So in this case, you can get a couple easy cases where you know that one of the conditions applies often. One of the conditions applies often a lot. Another condition comes around every now and then, and one of them is just simply impossible. And then you can just get the cases where if it's between two people, you know who wins the modulo. In this case, meh was winning handily. And that's really it. So you kind of just get into that rhythm. make sure that you understand that there is that second rule, which is kind of annoying, but make sure you always check for that rule. And that's really it for it. I know I would have loved to cover all of these rules. I'll be honest with you, I would not. But just make sure that you read the rules carefully, because some of them are tricky and some of them are actually very straightforward. Dicey's rule is by far the best. Or obvious, even. Obvious prefers odd numbers. Dicey prefers numbers divisible by 3. Like, you can't go wrong with those rules. So just be very careful when doing this, and make sure that you just, when you're moving on to the next numbers, make sure that you're not considering the person who previously typed it, because that's going to save you a lot of time. And that's really all there is to it. So, as always, thank you guys for watching. Remember to stay crazy, stay cool, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.